What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and today we have Matt Madness training round number 2. That's right, on February 17th at 10 p.m. We will be on Matt Madness with 3 other contenders trying to get out of the pre-qualifying round into the actual Matt Madness tournament, but the only way we can do that is with some practice. So today, a patron, actually my brother-in-law, sent me 3 samples with a couple of questions for each. Let's pour these up, let's try these out, and let's see how close we can get. I'll be completely honest with you. I've had a few drinks tonight. I don't know if that's going to help or hurt. We're about to find out. It's actually Friday night, and I literally have Matt on in the background. I also don't know who I'm going up against yet, which is actually a big factor. I don't know why. It's just something in my mind makes me want to know who I'm going up against. But everybody knows before we get started on all of that, time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. No idea. So if you don't know what Matt Madness is, basically there's a gentleman, his name's Matt. He runs a YouTube channel called ADHD Whiskey. If you're watching my YouTube channel, I'm sure you've heard of ADHD Whiskey. What he does is sends a bunch of samples out to YouTubers. They receive the samples, they go on his live stream. He asks them questions about those samples. The people with the closest answers move on to the next round. This is the pre-qualifying round that I will be on February 17th at 10 p.m. If I win that round against the other 3 people competing at 10 p.m., I will be in the actual bracket. But the only way we can get there is practice, practice, practice. So I have 3 samples sent to me from a patron. These are double blind. I don't know anything about these samples right here. Again, we're going to answer some questions. I'll tell you what they are as we go. But let's start with sample A. We have to guess the proof and the age on this glass right here. Now, should I have started trying this after I've had a few drinks tonight? Probably not, but we're going to see here. I've been drinking some higher proof stuff. This seems very tame, very mild. I'm going to say it's less than 100 proof. I'm just trying to figure out how much less. Now, there are a few tips and tricks that I've thought of, not on my own, but with the help of a lot of people in my Discord. Selfless plug, come join our Discord, link in the description below. I'm not going to give away the tips and tricks just in case some of my competition happens to be watching, but I will say that my guesses today are based off those tips and tricks. Let's take another sip of this. Again, we're thinking proof and age on this glass. Now, there's a couple of things that I'm thinking about with this glass right here. First things first, I think I know what bottle this is. I have to know the proof and the age, right? So how many bottles out there at this proof have an age statement on it? Also, how many bottles do I think come from the distillery that I think it is? So what that's telling me is I think this is a specific distillery. It's got to have an age statement, and it's got to be at the proof point that I think it is, which only gives me so many bottles. So I'm going to say for a proof, it's 90 proof. And for an age, it's 10 years old. Now listen, I'm not going to tell you how I got to this conclusion, just in case the competition is watching, but let's get into glass B. We need to know finished, yes or no, and the distillery that this comes from. The finish on this glass is definitely a yes, but the distillery is going to be tough. I don't know if I'm going to be able to guess the distillery. There is a lot of distilleries with a lot of good finishes. I like this finish. It's a little more sweet, maybe a little more wine forward. So we're going to do process of elimination to try and guess the distillery. So in my mind, I'm already eliminating distilleries that don't do finished whiskeys, but at the end of the day, I can't be 100% sure that this is finished. So I also have to keep an open mind on the fact that this could be a distillery that isn't finishing their whiskey, and what could that be as well? So let's take another sip and see what we think. See, the tough thing about this is sometimes I get thrown off by if it's a rye whiskey or a high wheat whiskey or just a wheater in general. But at the end of the day, I still think this is finished. And I wrote down rabbit hole for now. I'm going to revisit this one more time. It's good, whatever it is, but I'm not 100% on the finish on this. And I'm definitely not 100% on the distillery. Let's get into sample C. We need to guess the state and then the classification, bourbon, rye, or American. Let's try this out. Now, again, we're going to try and use process of elimination on this, right? We have states. What are the states that this could be from? Could this be from Florida? Sure. Could it be from Pennsylvania? Absolutely. New York, Delaware? I mean, yeah, there's definitely whiskeys from those states. But what do we have? We have Indiana, MGP, huge sourcing. We have Tennessee, puts out a lot of whiskey. We have Kentucky, obviously. We have a few one-offs. Colorado has some pretty good stuff. I do think this is bourbon, and I do think it's from a more popular bourbon area. Maybe MGP, maybe Kentucky, maybe Tennessee, but definitely somewhere more in that region rather than something else like a craft distillery would put out. I definitely think what I'm sipping on this glass is bourbon, but state is tough. I definitely have to stick with either MGP and say Indiana, or just go with Kentucky for the vast majority of the bourbons that come out of Kentucky. Those are the two states that I'm thinking of. I'm going to take one more sip to see if I can pull any MGP out of this glass. Listen, it's delicious, it's balanced, it's well put together. I'm going to say Kentucky for the simple fact that I have more options in Kentucky than anywhere else. I'm honestly taking a shot in the dark on one, is this MGP, or two, could this be anything in Kentucky? And I have to take the odds when it comes to Kentucky. Kentucky, and it's definitely a bourbon. So going back through one more time, sample A, we need to know proof and age. I said 90 proof and 10 years old. Let's see. It's definitely lower proof. I'm going to stick with my guns on 90 proof. There's not a lot of 90 proof stuff out there with an age statement on it, so I'm going to stick with 10 years as well. Let's get into B, finished and distillery. I'm still not positive on the distillery on this, but I do think it's finished, and I'm going to say Rabbit Hole. I like those two answers right there. Last but not least, sample C, state and classification. I still think this is bourbon. Let's try and guess the state. I'm going to stick with Kentucky. I'm even going to go as far to say that this might be like a Barton product. So here's my thought. Eagle Rare, I think this is like a Rabbit Hole PX Sherry cask, and I think this is Barton, whether it's Sam Houston or something up there, maybe a Calumet Farms, something a little bit older, something a little bit higher proof. But let's find out. I have it in my Discord. Let's go find out what he picked. I don't know if I should be more excited or more disappointed in myself than ever, but I will say, sample A, I said 90 proof, 10 years old. This bad boy right here is a 90 proof, 10-year-old Eagle Rare. I have a specific note that I get off Buffalo Trace, and I got it off of this, and I thought if he's asking me age, there's only so many things that could be aged with an age statement from Buffalo Trace with a 90 proof, and that's how I got that one right there. Very difficult, but at the end of the day, for me, I picked it out and I got it, and I love that for me. Now, sample B, is it finished, and what distillery does it come from? I said, yes, it's finished, and it's Rabbit Hole. Now, it is finished, yes, so I get points for that, but it's Maker's Mark BRT01, and I talked about maybe this is a wheated bourbon. I have to go back through my collection and try more wheated bourbons just so I can pick up that wheated note. Now, the last one, though, is where I need your help, and I need you to let me know in the comment section below. The state, I said Kentucky. The classification, I said bourbon. This is from Tennessee, and this is Jack Daniel's single barrel proof. Does that count as a bourbon, or is that a Tennessee whiskey? Now, if I had to guess, I would say that Matt would not give me points, right? I think he would put Tennessee whiskey as its own classification, but technically, under all the rules and regulations, it qualifies as a bourbon. But I got this one completely wrong. It's a Tennessee whiskey. It's not from Kentucky. That one was tough. Tennessee was another one that I talked about. It could be Indiana. It could be Tennessee. It could be Kentucky. Somewhere in that region, but it's definitely tough to pick those up. I will say this was a great blind. These were some great questions, and I loved doing this one. Listen, in the first samples I got, I needed to compare A to B to C to D, right? Which is the highest? Which is the lowest proof? Which is the oldest? Which is the youngest? This one, I needed to separate everything out. What is this? What is that? What is C? At the end of the day, both of these great practices. I loved everything about them. I will be excited to try practice round number 3 and 4. I believe I have 2 more sets of samples coming from patrons. Definitely going to get into those, make sure we figure out our stuff, and also have Marissa help me around the house by picking out some random bottles on our shelf. But here's what I need from you guys. Support on the 17th. Come over, check me out on ADHD Whiskey's channel, 10 p.m. on the 17th. I need all the support I can get. I'm going to try my best. If we can get to the first round, that's the first step. We're not stopping there, though. We're going to try and win this whole thing and make an impression on the entire Whiskey YouTube channel. But in the meantime, make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Go click that follow button over there. Click that like and that subscribe button over here if you've made it this far in the video. Check out our Patreon page as well as our Discord. Both links in the description below. Please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly and stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. Knew it was Eagle Rare.